throughout the presentation. Thank you very much for joining. I'm very happy to give my 2 cents worth of insight regarding wearable technologies, sustainability, the clothing industry in general. Jessica has asked me to bring our products into context with sustainability and the industry development. So that's what I'll be concentrating on. You'll find me probably spending some time venting about the industry as from the perspective of a supplier, because I've followed it since the late 80s throughout all the way till today. I remember spending a few years in America. There was in the late 80s a very different environment. There was companies like Cliftex, Greif, Pendleton, Sewell, huge factories with 1,500 employees sewing, unimaginable today. And they were all making men's suits, and we were an interlining company, family business that only survived over the generations, because in each generation we would make one pivotal invention that would change the industry as it was. In my father's generation, that was fusible interlinings, which didn't exist yet. In my generations, this was interlinings that were elastic of texturized polyester. And in each case, we would go from door to door and in that process, follow the industry and see how people reacted. Now, in normal industries, if you have a totally new invention, let's say in consumer electronics or cars or whatever, and you had an invention that was already used by another company, you would get the response, that's less interesting because it's already used by another company. In the clothing industry, that was always very different. The cycle of bringing a new invention into the market that we found was always the same. We were a German company, so let's say you put a product and you ask, let's say, a company like to start using it. And would ask you, well, who's already using it? Not am I the first, but I want to limit my risk. I want to make sure that other people were the guinea pig. And then a few people maybe in Germany would use your invention, and that would catch the attention of the Italians. And then the Italians caught on, and that would go over to America, and from there to Asia. And that's how slowly a new product would really go into the industry. But it was always an environment where the companies would follow others, not lead. That's part of my venting. That's part of the experience that really led us to do what we're doing now. Over the years, the environment changed completely. In America, as in Europe, almost simultaneously. In the early mid 90s, all of the huge factories I described were almost simultaneously closed. Cliftex, Pendleton, all these huge factories, everybody ran to China at the same time. They all took numbered tickets and got appointments and formed joint ventures and did everything they could to destroy the American clothing industry. Because, and I don't know what was first, the chicken or the egg, everything had to become cheaper. Now, in our theory, everything had to become cheaper because the product became less interesting. The product became less interesting because it was no longer possible, like in the 80s, to make bright yellow men's tailored suits. The fashion aspect disappeared and everything became a gray suit. So in our view, the price went down because the product became less interesting. In other people's view, the product had to become less interesting because of global supply chains. There was no way to make it that cheap in order to. So the environment changed. The classic department store became a real estate company, buying and selling buildings and renting shop-in-shop spaces to brands. The brands, the former clothing producers that used to have their own factories, they stopped their own factories, they stopped their own product development departments. They started outsourcing in Asia. The buying houses took hold, and they were the ones who basically were doing the product development, and the factories were doing the actual work. So in that environment, the product development cycle became one of 6 months. So innovation, fashion, all these things were hardly possible anymore, and the consumer environment changed. After Second World War, we researched this once, these figures. The average household spending of the available consumer household income was 20%. After World War II, the actual what you wear was the most important thing. The self-expression of fashion was a priority. That same figure 10 years ago was 11%. So it went from 20% to 11. And today it's 4.8%. These are global figures. So the importance of consumers placing the importance in fashion went down from 20 to 4. They think it's going to level out somewhere at 3%. So that's, you got everything in there. You got fast fashion, you got all the casualization, all the different phenomena combined in those figures. In the end, the amount of money consumers wanted to spend on fashion decreased, while in the same time period in consumer electronics, for example, they increased from 2 to 8%. So that's twice fashion already. Meanwhile, the clothing industry is still embarked in somehow making the product cheaper. They went to China, and from China they went to Vietnam, and now they're going to Cambodia, Bangladesh, and from there now everybody's gearing up to go to Africa. The $300 suit, when I was in America and Cliftex and Pendleton were still producing there, it was a $300, $400 suit. Now you can get a suit for $99 with 2 pants and 2 extra ties. So it's a different environment, and it's all a gray suit, and it's a very boring, non-inspiring product, and that is totally unsustainable. Not only from an environmental point, but also from an economic point. Now, I had a discussion last week with the owner of a large fashion company that I know since many years, so we could talk very openly. And he says, you know what, I'm going to take your suit with a wireless charging pocket. We think it's very cool, but my merchandisers say that they have to limit the risk, and they are just going to make 5,000 jackets this season. And I could talk to him openly. And I said, you know what? Look through some of the figures. Making an ordinary garment is the most risky thing you do. You take a garment, you plan to make the garment 6 months before you're going to sell it. It travels halfway across the world, maybe once or twice, or with raw materials even 3 times. And you make a risk on the sizes and color assortments that you may sell in 6 months from now. And then you produce these garments. And with an ordinary garment, the figures are very, very clear. 40% of the garments you're going to produce are going to go straight to the landfill in Ghana, because they're not even going to hit the retail stores. Of the 60% that actually hit retail, half of those are going to go on sale off price to cost levels or lower. So basically what you're doing is you're banking on the 30% of your production output where everything will go well as planned and calculated, while 70% will go badly because of the long supply chains, because of the lack of innovation, because of the lack of passion that your consumers have in your product. Now, we have a couple of examples. I told him, Calvin Klein, I'll show you in a second, Ralph Lauren, they made some heated coats, Corigliani, a bunch of Italians. The common feedback we get is not only, hey, we sold it well, but we sold all of it. That's the most important thing, that 70% that went to landfill, they didn't exist. People were taking this off the stores, irrespective of color and size. They sold all of it. So let's say Calvin Klein made a heated coat in New York. Ralph Lauren did the same. The production company was called Peerless. I'll show you the models in a second. All of it was sold, and the standard $299 overcoat became a $450 product. And all of it was sold. So I told this guy, making ordinary clothing is the most risky thing you do. Because you have all these variables and all these reasons why most of it will either land in garbage or be sold at off-price levels. So that's really what I wanted to tell you on that conversation, because it was last week, on why we do what we do, the excitement that we see on the consumer level for products which have functional clothing, let's say functions that really make sense. That's what really drove us forward. And it started out 5 years ago, really with conversations at 3 a.m. in the kitchen. Wouldn't it be cool if a wireless desktop charger was integrated somehow into a garment? Wouldn't it be cool if the garment electrically heated you? Wouldn't it be cool if an NFC chip was integrated into a button? Wouldn't it be cool if so basically from one thing leading to another, the company started out as an electronic functions into garments. It then got a second product category, if you will, where we found textiles also induce functions in garments that make sense for the consumer. And finally, we added what we call now smart accessories, which are things like belts, hats, wallets that all do something cool. So I'm going to take you through our showroom now and just show you some of these products. Let me just see how on Teams, how do you switch the camera? Here we go. So we started out with basically the first thing you need in order to put any electronic function in the garment. It was power banks. So mobile power banks that used to cost $200 all of a sudden matured, and now you can get them on Amazon for $10, $20. So with that maturity came the possibility to offer them into the clothing industry, because it has to be price compatible, right? So we started with high-level companies. We found out that there was intricacies. So let's say a company like Xenia, they made a heated jacket and they wanted the power bank inside the coat, and they told us, look, we're going to sell this jacket in 50 different countries. We don't have the system to not sell in Korea or Saudi Arabia. We have to sell worldwide. So we found out all of a sudden these certifications. CE is Europe, FCC is America, but there's a Canada, there's a Mexico, there's a Saudi Arabia, they all have their own certifications. So we had to shift back. We thought it was going to be a simple buy and sell item. We started auditing factories in China and really developing a small condensed range of products that are certified globally. About a year ago, we got lucky. Our office in Shenzhen, which is part of sort of an innovation community there, one of the companies there developed a flexible lithium battery. So we were happy to be selected as a company that would bring that into the clothing industry. And so part of what we do is we do it ourselves with our own money to get it production ready, to get it certified. And part is we work with customers if they want it exclusive to themselves, that we do it for them. What we're going to do ourselves right now, the first thing is we're going to make a belt. And the belt will be a power bank. So the flexible lithium battery will be 2.5 centimeters wide and 90 centimeters long. It'll have an MAH of 2,000, which is enough to charge one phone. So those are things that we'll do ourselves. Other things we'll do with customers. I'll give you a few more examples. once we had the power in the garment, we said, how do we use that power? The most obvious thing first was illumination. So we said, okay, we can illuminate the garment. We worked with EL, with LED, different types of illumination. So the newest thing here is an LED thread that is so thin that it's compatible with a stitching or embroidery machine. It can be stitched directly into the fabric. So things like this excite us. So we basically take the garment component from the customer and embellish it this way and send it back to the factory of the customer. So basically things like zippers can exist for visibility purposes, or it could just simply be logo embellishment. So it's used in different ways. So illumination is really a thing we do on a project basis. More standardized, we got into heating. Now, a heating system, we've looked at probably 30, 40 different ones. This is a carbon system that we decided to go with because it has amazing properties, and the price relationship and the battery usage is perfect. It's a carbon thread that's stitched into a carbon felt. Let me just show you with a battery. So we developed a 3-patch system here. We do it in any way the client wants it, but basically we're proposing 3 patches, 1 for the back and 2 for the side pockets to warm up the fingers. So basically you have a control button with 3 settings, and the maximum setting makes those carbon threads warm up to a temperature of 60 degrees Celsius. So the whole thing's fully washable, dry cleanable. It was developed in a way that it would stay in the garment through all treatments. And yeah, there's a few examples. Let's say, for example, there's a coat of Ralph Lauren. They chose to put the control button here on the inside. They chose not to put a power bank because they were afraid power banks were going to be stolen out of the garments on the retail floor. So that's possible. You could do it, which is the cable. And they said all of these garments were sold, irrespective of size or color or anything. And I followed this on Google, and I saw a Calvin Klein garment. They put the control button on the sleeve. This Calvin Klein garment was not the $299 overcoat. It was the $450 overcoat. And I saw it being purchased and offered on eBay, and it was sold for $500. People would like this stuff if it was in the stores. But it's, who's already using it? Oh, let's see, maybe we'll do 5,000 jackets and maybe next season. And so it's very slow, and that's the industry you're entering. The most risky thing to make an ordinary garment seem safe, while any type of innovation seems weird. Anyway, so we got the heating system. Then we looked at the opposite of that. We looked at cooling. This was going to be more of a workwear thing, with ventilators basically being integrated into a garment. We thought it was for police forces, it was for factories, smelting. We started selling it in Saudi Arabia for smelting companies. So it actually turned out to be a product that was very successful. But we always had this idea it should also be in the fashion industry. So we envision a jacket for the golfer, for the jogger. Some industries are now developing self-driving cars and doing all kinds of amazing things, and the clothing industry hasn't figured out yet to keep a customer from sweating while he's playing golf. This is a thing that could be in your golf bag, and you wear it 2 minutes and it cools you down. It cools you down. Why? Because ventilators achieved a mature price level. Power banks have achieved a mature price level. You put them all together, basically you can all of a sudden create an air exchange in the garment. 20 cubic meters of air per ventilator are basically sucked into the garment and blown out here. This huge air exchange leads to a cooling effect that works well even if the incoming air is warm. So now we've been showing this for 2 years as a vision. Now we see Nike is developing exactly this type of jacket. So we have reason to believe that it is going to go into the clothing industry because it just makes sense. So those things are things that excite us. One of the next things we developed is, wouldn't it be cool if an NFC button was there, where the NFC chip, as it is in every credit card, would induce a smartphone shortcut function. So all I do is I have this button on my sleeve or wherever in the garment. I put the phone to it, and I could tell this button to do anything. So let's say a fashion brand would say, I'll use this button to do some advertising, to link to my online shop, to put care instructions of the garment. How was this garment made? That's how it was supposed to be originally used. Many companies did that, but then something happened where we got lucky. Apple decided to stop the blockade of NFC writing. So all of a sudden now you get updates, new programs called shortcuts and others, where the consumer can reprogram that button. And say, I wanted to call my wife. I wanted to turn on the lights in my smart home. I wanted to, Hilton is even starting to open hotel room doors. Audi is starting to open car doors. So NFC will be everywhere. And here you have an NFC button as part of your garment that you can use on an everyday basis and reprogram every day if you want. So I have some in my car. Basically, one says, please favorite rock music. The other one even says, where is my wife located right now? So you can program it on any app and any function within the app, really, and you could do it quite easily. So this became a product that was originally designed for brands. Now all of a sudden it became a consumer product. The next invention was something 4 years ago, again, 3 in the morning in the kitchen. Wouldn't it be cool if a wireless desktop charger was part of a garment or a bag? So we started developing rudimentary prototypes where a charging coil was somehow sealed for washability. We then found out it had to be a triple coil, so you can put the telephone into the pocket, maybe only half or 3/4. Then we found we had to single seal it for dry cleanability. Finally, the product was perfected by making it double sealed with liquid silicone, and it became fully washable, even at a spin cycle in the washing machine of 1,000 RPM. So we achieved the idea, okay, you can make a pocket, put a device inside. It's somehow connected to a power bank inside the garment. It's on standby. You put in the telephone and automatically it starts charging. So the pocket is elastic. It's equipped with a silver layer to block out any residual radiation from the telephone. And the product was perfected with all kinds of accessories now, with single cables, long cables, short cables, split cables if you combine it with other functions. So we went out into the clothing industry and so here, for example, a garment was done where basically you have a power bank in the middle, up here a heating system, and down here the charging pocket. So the same power bank would feed both. But, you know, for a garment that is a leather garment or a ski garment, whatever, that's fine. But you do have the weight of the telephone and the weight of the power bank on the same side. So for the men's tailored suit, for example, that's a no-go. So we said, okay, let's do a longer cable so people can take it from the right side to the left side in the back through the lining. Or we could take another jacket. Now, as you know, the fashion is more without lining, so basically you can go through the neckline. You can take the wireless charging pocket. You can make a split cable to combine it with earphones, so that you always know where they are. You're a commuter on a train. You're always sure that they're recharged. So there's so many things that you can put into a garment in combination with wireless charging. So these combinations, they were what excited us. Here's another example. We took a handbag. Let's say you have a wireless charging pocket in the handbag, you have a power bank pocket in the handbag. So the lady can take her phone, put it in the pocket, it's always charged. So it's always charged. When it rings, she doesn't look for it, she knows where it is. And at the same time, she has a button here fed by the same power bank to internally illuminate the handbag because she's looking for something. So these things, my partner is going crazy with this. She was the inventor, and she says, I don't know how to live without it anymore. In the evening, my phone is still fully charged. I change this every like 2 days, and when I want to, I can turn off the light in my handbag. So these are such reasonable and sensible additions to fashion products that they just make sense, but they were hard to integrate in the past. So what do we do as a company? We deliver this. Basically, we take a split cable. Let's say the power bank is here. The plug leads to a split cable. The split cable leads here to the wireless charging pocket with micro USB. That leads to a button, and the button leads to the LED. So this is easy to sew in. It's any factory in Vietnam or whatever. You cannot start telling them, you know what, you're going to have to start welding electronics together or sealing microchips. It's not going to work. We have to deliver it in a way that a clothing company is easily able to integrate it. And that was the concept in the heating system, the wireless charging pocket, and things like this. And that's what now is making it click. That's what has been missing in the past, because there was always an LED company that would say, hey, I have an LED. There was the cable company that said, I have a cable. But the clothing company said, I cannot deal with that. I need to have the full ready-made package, and that's what we do. Then there's two textiles, as I mentioned, that have wearable technology attributes, let's say, because they really have a function. One is odor absorbing textiles, where basically we started with activated carbon. Now, activated carbon, we had learned a lot about this. Now, a rayon product, this is how it begins. As you know, rayon is almost like wood, it's cellulose. So if you apply enough heat to it, it converts directly into 100% carbon. That means it burns, but it's in textile form. And then that is retreated at 1,000 degrees Celsius, and the carbon becomes activated carbon. That means millions of nanopores form. No, from water filtration in granular and powder form, activated carbon is not new. But these nanopores have never been in textile form. So we said, okay, so how can this absorb odor molecules, and how can we deliver it into a garment application? The textile was a little bit not tear resistant. It was a volatile, so we had to enclose it and develop it in a pre-manufactured form. So we developed underarm inlays, half moon shaped, where a little triangle of this activated carbon would be inside. So they were like sewn into the armhole, visible for the customer to see. They were enclosed by a fabric, either polyester mesh or bamboo, which had high air permeability. So there was an air exchange inside. It was close to the source of the odor, and it was in an enclosed environment. Those are the three prerequisites for the product to be most effective. And then we took it to Hohenstein. It's the institute that does Ökotex and many other testings. And they actually have people on staff that would smell on the body and assign certain values to what they smell. Not my dream job, but that's what they do. They found it to be very effective. We then found other niches. This is a producer of shoe bags. That's another calamity, unimaginable that something like this doesn't exist. People have a luxury pair of shoes. They're traveling. The shoes are stinky because they wore it. Now they have to pack it into their suitcase, and the smell goes from the shoe to the rest of the clothing. How can there not be somebody who invented something to stop something so simple from happening? So basically, we're saying a little inlay in the inside of the shoe bag. That was the big innovation. So the shoe bag company became hugely successful in the Italian luxury industry of shoes because it works. So these are things where we basically say textiles can be wearable technologies. The next thing was silver textiles, and that was the biggest thing for us also in the pandemic and before. What we basically thought of 4 years ago, maybe this time 2 in the morning in the kitchen, was everybody got sent these credit cards. And they had this symbol, and this symbol, nobody knew what it meant. Now we all know what it means. We use it every day for contactless payment. But we also know there's a chip inside this credit card that can be scanned by illegal scanners from sometimes 2-3 yards away. They can scan your credit card number, your expiration date, even the last transactions are on that chip. So basically, people started to feel uncomfortable in malls and airports, and a lot of innovative companies started to develop RFID blocking products, pouches, travel bags, and some clothing companies also followed. So we wanted to offer a textile that could be used in a pocket, where you basically just put, when you feel uncomfortable, you put your wallet inside, zip, and basically all your credit cards are protected from these illegal scanners. That's how that product group became successful. And we chose at the time silver because it has such amazing properties, all the way back to the cowboy who put the silver dollar in the water to clean the water. It has antibacterial properties and many others. So then came the pandemic, and we had a horrible first lockdown here in Italy. And we said, wait a minute, what was this thing with the antibacterial? Because so far we were only protecting credit cards. So we said, let's research this. So we spent weeks on preprint servers and research networks and found out the theory. The theory was the textile would emit silver ions that would be positively charged. Bacteria and viruses are negatively charged, so they attract each other like magnets. Eventually, the silver ions would be numerous enough to knock out the DNA of the virus or bacteria, so it couldn't reproduce. That was said to happen quite quickly, and eventually the membrane would be ruptured and the virus would be destroyed. So that was the theory. Now we had proof that somehow our products did this. So there wasn't a textile lab in the world, I think we didn't call, all the way to Malaysia. Everything was geared, of course, to populations, not to industries. So we couldn't find a textile lab. We got very lucky. We found something much more valuable. We found a health institute in Italy that did direct research on the virus, that would cooperate with the EC, with the United Nations and everything. And they took an interest in this idea. Does that work? They wanted to know for their own purposes if that works. So we worked with them for about 4 months, testing different products under different conditions. And not only did we find the theory is correct, bacteria and viruses are destroyed, but we found coronaviruses are destroyed. We thought that would be in maybe 1 hour. We took that down to half an hour to 15 minutes to 5 minutes. We found out that a product like Jupiter, which is a parachute woven silver product with basically 20% pure silver content, it will kill destroy a coronavirus in less than 5 minutes. Products like Vega, which are highly elastic products, also with 20% silver, they could be used in elastic applications. So we started making, during the pandemic, silver guard accessories. For example, the Vega became a glove. So we sell this now even to restaurants, hotels. I could see this in a Gucci store. It's a beautiful, soft, gorgeous accessory, which is functional. Anything I touch with this is decontaminated. Yeah, well, then we made handkerchiefs, elastic or non-elastic. We made pouches, so you can put a face mask inside. And our existing and future clothing companies, they had a second function for their pocket. This was no longer just a pocket to protect credit cards. Now you could put a face mask in here. You could put a smartphone, and anything that is contaminated that spends more than a few minutes in this pocket is decontaminated. So that's the second function that we found in the same product. And now is the third function that I'll demonstrate on a pair of jeans. Um, Again, we have the option of putting on a patch the layer of silver to protect my credit cards. But now I have a new idea. Basically, we can put it towards the body. Why? Because there's 5G phones. And whether it's true or not, nobody really knows. But the 5G frequency is 36 gigahertz, while 4G is only 2 gigahertz. So people feel uncomfortable about that high new frequency that nobody ever really experienced. Is it harmful to the body or not? So I can put my 5G phone here and protect my body from the signals. So again, I have a commodity pair of jeans that might be a $20 product, $30 product. Now I have one cool function. I have another second cool function. The third one I already mentioned, decontamination. I can innovate even a pair of jeans. And as Calvin Klein did, the 299 coat became 450. Maybe this pair of jeans, that's 30 euros, can become 50 or 60. And that's really what we aim to do. Of course, we add value with new functions in garments, but the idea really is that the retail value explodes higher than the production value. Then we found out that many customers obviously are not only fashion producers or developers, they're also fashion retailers. So we started for them developing smart leather accessories. So we said, okay, we found out the jacket can charge the phone wirelessly and the handbag can do it. Why shouldn't a wallet do it? So we basically said, okay, here is a wallet. I put the telephone inside. All I do is close it. It wirelessly charges my phone, let's say in a men's model. In the ladies' model, again, here you have all the attributes of a wallet, but you also have cables. You have a powerful 8,000 mAh power bank with you. The thing doesn't get much heavier. Things that you have with you anyway that solve the age-old problem of running out of battery by 2 in the afternoon, which is shared by all generations. The kids have the gaming, the business people are checking their emails every 5 minutes. Everybody has huge functions in smartphones that didn't even exist. And no matter how much larger the functions that the smartphones get, in order to make the battery larger, it's still the same problem. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're scrambling for charging ports. Here, for example, you have a notebook cover. Again, here you have a battery included. You can charge by cable, or you can charge wirelessly. You can have a little stand for your phone if you want to watch music, and here you have a notebook. Now, these are accessories that don't exist in stores yet, but they could be great additions to any fashion retailer to make the brand more young, more attractive, and to make it more fun to buy fashion again. Another example is the integration of hats with earphones. So there's 3 systems here that we're working on. One is very simple. You have a hat for the jogger, let's say for the snowboarder, the skier, or whatever. You just have simple speakers that connect with Bluetooth and pair up with your phone. If it's another application or type of customer that needs privacy more, you just replace the speakers with an earplug. Simple enough. So we can do that. The newest technology, however, is to put what we call bone conducting technology into a hat. Now that is where we get excited. Here, for example, in a pair of sunglasses, you have vibration generators. It was found that if I wear these sunglasses, because they have contact to my upper cheekbone here, I have a crystal clear sound. Why? Not because the sound waves transported the sound into my ear, but this vibration transported it. It has a key difference. It's a new experience. I now hear my surroundings. I hear the traffic. I hear the waves on the beach, and I can still hear my music. I can be on my telephone call. So this is the idea now to take this and put it into a hat. It's another example where we are investing as KC because we think it's cool. Because I can create that proximity to that upper cheekbone with a vibration generator that's integrated into a hat or a baseball cap. And then I'll have the same function that other companies are working on in earphones like Bose, bone conducting technology, not only in a pair of sunglasses that we also sell, but also in a hat. So putting these technologies and making them available to the clothing industry is what drives us, and that's what our passion is. There's many other accessories that we've started working on. There's trackers for handbags or expensive garments. This is I don't know if any of you saw the movie True Lies, where the lady has the purse and then the agent finds the lady with the purse. So this is basically the technology. So it's a tracker that has its own SIM card and basically tracks you within 10 meters. On a much lower price level, there's the trackers that work in combination with the smartphone itself. Let's say you have this on a keychain, you lose the keychain, the phone warns you and leads you back to the keychain. There's other things like, like a smart bracelet, for example. Normally you would buy that in an electronics store, but if it's different enough and cool enough, this is, for example, a smart bracelet that, measures your pulse and blood pressure and everything else. But in this case, when the phone starts ringing, I can take it out and use it as an earpiece and then hang up the phone again because I don't want to take the phone out of my pocket. So things that are different and innovative enough, we think fashion companies can sell in their existing store networks to increase the productivity by square meter of their stores, and just make also the shopping experience more fun. We're looking at many accessories, solar panels. Here we're still not happy because the efficiency of the solar panels is okay to drive LED and stuff, but it's not okay yet to really effectively charge a phone. But then we have, let's say, a lock for a handbag that's programmed to my fingerprint. I open the handbag with my fingerprint. These are cool additions to accessories that can make the product more modern, and that make you wonder, why don't handbags have this? Why don't they have wireless charging pockets? Why don't they have interior illumination? These things are not so hard. But so far, the drive was not there. The materials were not there. And if they were there, they were not in pre-assembled form for the clothing industry to easily use. So I'm not sure where I am on time. I think I'm exactly 45 minutes. I thank you for your attention. If there is remaining time, and if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them.
Thank you so very much, Dominic. That was a wonderful presentation. There's a lot.
That was machine gun fire.
There's definitely a lot of things that I definitely learned today. We have a couple of questions. We do have about 12 minutes left until the top of the hour. So if anybody else has questions, or if not, we have like 2 pages worth. But anybody else have any questions that they want to ask? Okay. So do you want to?
Yeah. So the first thing that we were wondering about is just like what your products like post-consumer sustainability is like what happens when like products disintegrate or like new tech comes out and kind of old tech is going to come out of fashion. What is the process of like dealing with that looking like and disposing of it properly? Can these things be reused, recycled? What's the situation there?
Two things. First of all, the biggest destroyer of sustainability in the clothing industry is the fact that the appreciation level of the consumer for the clothing itself is so low that the amount of time the garment is worn has reduced by 50% in the last 10, 15 years. So the overproduction of disposable clothing has to be stopped, and the only way to do that is to add cool functions that make the garment more appreciated. Having said that, of course, we advocate to every let's say, men's suit supplier that puts a wireless charging pocket, put a zipper in the lining. People have access to it so that they can dispose of the interior separately from the garment. So we find the clothing industry is paying a lot of attention to that the electronics can be disposed of separately, which is important because the recycling laws in electronics are leaps and bounds years ahead of the clothing ones. So basically, whatever electronic components that you would have in a garment should and can be taken out easily and disposed of separately, so that they can be recycled.
Thank you so very much. Did you want to ask a follow-up question? Or I was going to ask this.
Yeah, go for it.
So speaking of, and sorry for the background noise. Speaking of, we're in somebody else's classroom. So, speaking of your dream client, do you have a dream client that you want to work with either in the fashion industry or in general?
We started falling in love with men's tailored clothing companies because they would like take these functions and sell them to consumers on the retail floor, just like you would buy a car. Would you like the electric windows? Yes, no. Would you like the power steering? Yes, no. That's how that industry started, with optional extras and made to measure. That's of course ideal because they don't have to plan these things 6 months in advance, take the risk. They can just put it in if the customer wants it. But from there, of course, there's large made to measure companies that can do that on high scale. We also fell in love with just basically the more innovative sportswear brands that are obviously more proactive, and they've done so much more. So let's say if you buy a ski jacket and you're a passionate skier, you'll pay $1,000 for that ski jacket today. If you want to buy a suit, you want it to be $99 or less, and you want to get an extra tie with it. So industries that did not innovate much, they had the worst price decline, while activewear sportswear companies, they did do a lot with membranes and bonding and different types of technologies. So they deservedly have a higher price point and obviously a higher passion for innovation.
Awesome. And this kind of answered my next question a little bit too, but where do you see wearable tech and more specifically KC tech going in the future? Like, is there another realm of technology you guys are interested in kind of exploring and getting into?
Remember I told you that basically there was the German company that finally spilled over to Italy, and from there it finally spilled over to America, and everybody followed everybody. We see that happening now. This is not something I should say, especially on a recording, but a customer like Italy says to us, you know what? If Ferragamo does it, then we'll do it too. They say this openly. This is the modus of operandi in the clothing industry. So we see the first ones doing it on a rapid basis. We're working a lot with Zegna and others. It's always the higher brands first, and then it trickles down. It's always, let's say, Italians and Germans first, then it spreads out. We're speaking now to a lot of producers also that need to innovate in order to show their clients. We're talking to Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, China, that are showing their clients. We think this is going to take maybe 1 or 2, 3 more years But we see the KC company, which is, let's say, a $3 million company right now, we see it becoming a $10 million company in the next 5 years. It could be much larger companies in 10 years. We're going to keep cracking and working on it and hope for the best.
That's incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Do we have a chat? If somebody also wants to put their question in the chat, that's okay too.
I had to get my mic figured out here. You know, I really want to piggyback on what Dominic said about, you know, this early adopter thing, because, you know, there really is a fundamental principle that he's talking about, which is that when one company adopts a new strategy, it forces its competitor to adopt the new strategy, which then forces an industry-wide migration to the new strategy. I think what's going on in market is that these companies know where technology is going, and they know that it's going to impact their companies. You know, they're back on the home campus. Are you guys familiar with the D-Tech lab on the first floor with Michael Ferrara? Okay, on the first floor of the C building, you'll see this big glass room. That's called the D-Tech lab. I used to be one of the lead researchers down there working with Michael. But we've done a lot with technology down there, and we've been approached by, and actually, if you look up D-Tech lab online, you'll see that we've done things with Tommy Hilfiger. We've designed things with IBM using Watson. We've done things with Ralph Lauren. All of these companies know that technology is going to permeate, you know, fashion. As a matter of fact, I tell my students that it's most likely, and I'm from the fashion design department, guys. I tell my students it is most likely that in the near future, maybe 5 years from now, you will most likely be working for a technology company and not for an apparel company, because technology companies are going to own the fashion space. And you can see it happening already, you know, with Amazon buying up companies and Facebook buying up technology companies. And that's just where the future of fashion is going to go. Dominic, very quickly, what has been your experience with battery size and battery life in your products?
The problem is inherently when you had in the 1970s, you had this huge video camera on your shoulders, and the lithium battery that charged it was inherently exactly the same technology as what you have now on your smartphone. So there are new technologies on the horizon, among others, graphite, that could lead to your phone staying charged for 2-3 weeks. But they're said to be 10-15 years out. And when they do come, they're first going to go into cars, and then they're going to in the military. And by the time they trickle down to clothing and become accessible, it's going to take even longer. So we think the problem of smartphones running out of battery will be there for at least another decade.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. We kind of have to wrap it up soon because I know classes start at 2. I just want to thank you guys all so much, and thank you, Dominic, for this amazing, amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm Kushbu. I'm the president of ATCC here. We meet every other Thursday, and I think Rebecca is going to quickly talk about our next meeting before we all say thank you to Dominic and head out.
Thanks very much, everyone.
I'll be reaching out to you.
Please do.
Okay.
All right. Take care, Leonard. Everybody, bye-bye. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for allowing FIT SUNY Korea to join your meeting.
Thank you. We would love to have you more.
Thank you. You came here at 2 o'clock in the morning. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.